The two brothers were taken aback when they saw the stunning actress in front of them. One of them flushed and remarked that she looked as lovely as an angel, but the other brother appeared unaware of who was in front of him. The bodyguard immediately obscured their view. After questioning them on their identities, he concluded that they were SEOIN supporters. Ryuman casually informed the security officer that they were the new neighbors from the SEOIN floor. When the bodyguard saw the rice cakes that Wani was holding, he was perplexed. When he recognized that the two brothers wanted to introduce themselves, he offered the rice cakes to Wani merrily. However, the bodyguard curtly dismissed him, stating that SEOIN doesn't eat such things. The bodyguard then used the card to access the elevator and accompanied SEOIN on its voyage. With one last look at the boys, she turned to head for the elevator. Although he doesn't know them, Ruman acknowledged when they were out of sight that he didn't enjoy their impolite behavior. Oni just stared at the elevator and said nothing. Ryan advised his brother not to worry about those that resembled them. Oni continued to stare at the elevator and replied to him that he was okay. One said after he emerged from trance that the meeting was incredible. However, it looked that his brother didn't understand what he was saying. He questioned his brother what he meant after being perplexed by his response and realizing that he had witnessed everything. Putting his hand on his brother's shoulder, he gently informed him that he was speaking about SE. Ruman inquired outright, "Who is Siren?" Meanwhile, stories about the passing of numerous well-known artists are all over the press. Siren was perusing the news on her smartphone. Her countenance was concerned as she pondered what was happening in their world. As she was reading the news about actor Gwang Mi-ho taking a leave of absence from his program Criminal Land due to anxiety, she got a text asking her if she had heard the story. When she opened the thread, she saw another comment regarding Wang Seo-jin, their recently deceased son, and she typed her reply. And when the person she was conversing with asked if she was going to the burial tomorrow, she said that she should go because Sunbae took great care of them. The person she was chatting with then invited her to go with them, and she accepted. She put down her phone and said, "It seems like the Suns, who are much more famous than me, couldn't make it past the first round." She thought, with a dejected expression, of how the rune had saved her, or else she would have also been on the news. She gasped as she realized how much she had been thinking of herself as a celebrity, believing that her death would have been reported in the media. She was preoccupied with ideas, especially wondering if she would have been able to achieve as much if it weren't for the sponsorships. She didn't even realize that the penthouse was supplied for her. She is already behind the bodyguard. The bodyguard approached her and inquired about her thoughts. She responded that she was unprepared for his visit and that it had nothing to do with it. The bodyguard sat down on the adjacent couch with a relaxed demeanor, offering to listen to her concerns. SEOIN expressed concern that she would not make it through the upcoming round and said that she was considering how the world got so crazy. She doesn't need to worry because he is with her, the bodyguard reassured her. He advised her not to worry and to put her trust in him. When she told him she trusted him, Seo Aaron grinned. The bodyguard was facing him as Se Aaron was staring at him. She recalled the first time the firm assigned him to protect her and was apprehensive about him because it seemed like he was there to watch over her. However, she realized that she would have perished in the first round if it weren't for him. The bodyguard promised to defend her at all costs as he glanced at her. When she conveyed her gratitude, she smiled and blushed a little. She joked that the rice cakes looked delicious and that she would gain weight if she ate them, but he flatly reminded her that the neighbors were only being kind to them. She brought up the subject of her downstairs neighbor right once, and the bodyguard most likely wounded their sentiments. With a serious face, the bodyguard reassured her that everything would be okay because the neighbors weren't just being polite. Rather, they were requesting something from them. If they had accepted the rice cake, the neighbors would have been bothering them non-stop. She thought back to their appearance and perceived them as decent individuals. She commented that one of the two appeared to be older than 15 and that he must have killed 100 goblins to survive the first round. The bodyguard retorted that it appeared to be the situation. She hugged her arm and said how incredible it was that he appeared composed despite having experienced such cruelty. The bodyguard mocked her and told her that she could have done it too, adding that killing 100 goblins wasn't difficult and that those who couldn't were just foolish. While acknowledging that her bodyguard is proficient even by other world standards, Siren kept her thoughts to herself. But he's not as good as the one who really stood out, Black Scythe. She almost felt sorry for the goblins when she watched him, since he was so brutal. She appeared interested in him and asked questions about his real-world work. If she sided with him, she was sure she could make it through the second round. As she describes how chance alone kept her alive throughout the first round, she is overcome with fear and wonders if she would make it through the next one as well. On Tuesday, January 31st, at 11 a.m., Juan turned away from the vacuum as he walked through the door and made his presence known. He asked his brother if he had been able to obtain the money and gave him a hearty welcome. In response, Riemann stated that he only got roughly 15 billion, when the previous time it was 17 billion. Since it was his fourth time, he wondered whether the bank had said anything to his brother. Ryan remembered that the bank manager was shocked to see him again. When the bank manager tactfully inquired about his lottery-winning strategy, he reminded him that he had previously disclosed to him last week that it had appeared in his dreams. The bank boss expressed conviction and hoped he would have similar ambitions. Rayuan was astounded by the tale. He asked his brother whether he would make another Bitcoin investment. Yes, Rayuan replied, given that their initial investment had already increased to 150 billion. He gently questioned his brother about selling their Bitcoin, since he thinks its value will decrease. However, Rayuan retorted with confidence that the moment isn't yet appropriate. He gave his brother a kind smile and reassured him that he would take care of it before inviting Ryan to dinner. In a restaurant, they eat pasta with happiness. People carried grocery bags and snacks as they strolled around the streets. Arrived on Tuesday, January 31st, at 11:55 p.m. Rayuan remains at his side, clutching his hand, while Rayuan remains awake in bed. Worried, Rayuan clasped his brother's hand. Rayuan informed him that he had nothing to worry about while grinning confidently and demanding that he return alive. That caused him to remember the strength he had unleashed over the bully Bang Tiger Rayuan. Rayuan is aware that his brother is capable of taking care of himself, yet he still finds himself worrying. Putting an end to his fear, Rayuan patted his brother's head and reassured him that he will be back from the other side by the time he woke up, and said he would see him later. His spirit suddenly burst into a brilliant brightness as he entered the other realm. As the sky grew gloomy, more players began to arrive. A player inquired about their successful arrival, while another expressed amusement at the incredibly quick travel. Others cowered in fear as they took in their surroundings because it appeared like a new location. Prior to someone noticing Black Scythe, the player who received the top rating in the previous round. Observing his surroundings, Rayuan saw that many individuals were able to identify him and avoided approaching him. He also saw that one of the players was mean. And then he started to grow restless, wondering when the angel was going to show up. Ryman's face was fierce. As she made sure everyone had arrived, the angel dropped from the skies. When the players realized that the angel was not the same as the one they had encountered, they became alarmed and unsure of what had transpired. The angel revealed that the angel overseeing the initial round was unable to attend due to an accident, and the angel advised them not to become alarmed. When she said that she would be their guide, she had a menacing expression on her face. She also announced that she would begin providing directions for the second part of the quest now that everyone had come. The players are engrossed in the details of the second round of tasks, which are shown on the screen. They have to select a zone representative within 3 hours. The way the players stared at their screens and began to voice their opinions suggested that they were confused by the directions. One player thought they would have to fight monsters again, but another seemed shocked at how many other players had already gotten past them, and even speculated that they would all survive the round. The angel saw the players' confusion and gave an explanation. She made it clear that the second round, which is not a battle round, only required them to choose a zone representative. The zone representative has the authority to compel people to carry out certain chores, including having them crawl or die. She said something about how amazing authority is. To choose the zone representative, the players only have 3 hours to spare. One of the players dared to ask if that was all there was to it. The angel confirmed that they will be counted as having passed and sent home after casting their votes, since this round is just a rest round. The idea that they would finish a simple mission without encountering any enemies or dying delighted the players. The timer then started after the angel invited everyone to choose a representative for their zone. 3 hours later, the players were grinning and asking each other if they would live if they voted, amused by the simple chore and the potential authority they might have. Iman is disappointed that he will not be taking part in this battle. Even though one of his friends reassured him that they wouldn't die after voting, Youngmin is furious that he paid money to increase his strength stat, but won't be able to use it. Ryuman overheard the conversation and concluded that Yondon had to have received the rune of strength. He took in his surroundings and mentally noted how the current situation and Han Youngman's rune are unfolding just as they always have. Since he was aware that there had to be a side quest if there was a main quest, he left the gathering of people discussing who to vote for. It wasn't what mattered most to him right now. He remembered that obtaining a class is the aim of the sub-quest in the second round. He gripped his dagger more firmly, eager to level up as soon as possible so he could enroll in a class. There was a goblin, and with a loud, unnerving noise, it moved forward when he dared it to. Ryan made a quick move to strike back. Upon eliminating the goblin by chopping off its head, he was notified via a notification screen that the hobgoblin had been eliminated. In addition, he received a triple XP bonus, raising his experience level to 9%. Furthermore, he gained 15 gold, and the effects of the Rune of Slaughter would raise all of his stats by 1%. He concluded that it was a sensible decision to hunt in the forest. Where there was one goblin, there would always be more, he knew. And he was right. A bunch of menacing appearing goblins materialized. Ryuman smiled at this. He stood in the middle of the woodland, waiting for the goblins to attack. He was calm and confident as he struck the goblin in the head. A notification screen informed him that he had slain a hobgoblin, increasing his tally of kills to 550 after he slew it with his knife. The forest was littered with the slain goblins' bodies. Then, a notice indicated that he had successfully leveled up and that the effects of the Rune of Slaughter will cause all stats to increase by 50%. Voting is still available for 2 hours, 29 minutes, and 24 seconds, according to the timer. Wiping his mouth, he asked himself whether 30 minutes had gone by. When he checked his stat window, he disclosed that he was at level 9. He decided to learn how to move more nimbly. The points would aid in strength if he were Han Youngmin, and he was aware that the Rune of Strength wasn't the ideal choice in every class. The 4 components of stats are strength, intellect, agility, and luck. He understood that players would perish even if they possessed extraordinary strength if they were unable to avoid a vital attack. He became more agile around age 24. Physical injury is impacted by strength. endurance, and fortification, while intelligence affects the mentality of magical harm and processing speed. His agility was at 30 when he checked his stat window again. The following elements are essential. Agility affects movement, attack, and evasion speed. Luck affects the chance of dropping critical damage items and earning more gold. Additionally, since he is a Grim Reaper class that uses both magical and physical damage, it is crucial to evenly increase all of his stats. He seemed to have caught sight of something behind his back. He was astounded that someone would bother to find him when he turned to see who it was. Lifting his sword, he insisted that his group come there and reveal their schemes. Although he was too preoccupied with the fight to notice it earlier, he finds this to be an unsettling posture. If not, they should have prepared for their death. A slow, rhythmic footstep sounds. Rumen recognized the woman as the actress he had met earlier when she revealed her identity. He wondered if she really was the one after him. She apologized for following him. There was also a man who showed up and apologized. He told him to calm down, telling him they weren't following him for evil. The man's name appears as a sanctual, which he pronounced. He realized that Anon Cole is Mayan Rock's right hand, and a solemn expression crossed his face. Ryan is after Mayan Rock, also known as Heavenly Demon, who is the oldest son of the nation's biggest firm. He knew that with him by his side, it would be easier for him to gain strength. Furthermore, he desires the backing of a Hmong Rock-affiliated priest for the 20th round. Ryuman was surprised to see Magong Rock's right hand at such a young age, and wondered about the man's connection to Essie Aaron. And he started to believe the man was Essie Aaron's personal bodyguard. Moreover, the puzzle pieces appear to fit together perfectly, given that celebrities were supported by Mayan Rock's firm. He didn't like that the future had changed in spite of this. He asked them how long they had been following him. Essian admitted that they had seen him approach the bush from the start and really apologized for it. He asked them why they were pursuing him. He was told by Siren that their acts were motivated by a desire to give him something rather than by animosity. She conveyed that they knew he had won the first round, which made Siren nervous. She wants to suggest that they become a team as a result. The idea of a team was ridiculed by Rumen, who told her that they would only succeed if she was just as useful to him. Essioen was unable to dispute his statements. Ram told them quite emphatically that he can cope without their assistance. Turning around, he suggests they go back and quit wasting his time, making it clear he has no interest in building a team. They looked at his rear. And Sano clicked his tongue, mockingly remarking on Ryuman's hubris. Essio Aaron groaned and dropped on her knees. She gave Anango's claim that if someone had a knife on their face, people wouldn't be terrified as justification for why she finds Ryuman so horrifying in the first place. Siren is unhappy because Yuman was not able to join her for the game. Anango reiterated his earlier remarks, which were that people with big egos like Roman don't work well in groups. SECI was forced to think that it was. Anango responded with a pity, telling her that although it wasn't embarrassing, he regretted wasting his time chasing Roman. Siren changed the topic, saying she didn't think creatures would show up in the forest, and they went ahead with their plan. Sano thought that going monster hunting would be a worthwhile way to spend their remaining time. The woodland was filled with lofty trees, luscious vegetation, and goblins. It became aware of sounds coming from the bushes. The goblin was then hit by Ryuman in a fit of rage, as they dared to ask him to work with them even though he was already too busy. Even when his blade penetrated the goblin's body, he kept his focus on leveling up. That was the most important thing right then. A notification screen showed that he had defeated a hobgoblin. His current kill total is 60 over 100, and the benefits of the Rune of Slaughter will increase all of his stats by 60%. All of a sudden, a pack of wolf-like animals emerged. He was thrilled and lucky to have come across multiple gnolls at once, as they all attacked him simultaneously. They prepared their weapons and jumped into the air. Rumen stood, holding a dagger firmly, and he made a swift succession of movements to cut the NES with his sword. And when he advanced to level 10, his stats all increased by 65% due to the effects of the Rune of Slaughter, and a notice screen showed that he had engaged in combat with a gnoll. This brought his current kill total to 65. When he saw in the notification window that he had already satisfied the prerequisites to be considered for the class, his efforts had paid off. Windows gradually showed up to notify him that he had leveled up to level 10 and that he had fulfilled the requirements for progress. Rumen also obtained access to the shop and the hidden subquest. The subquest window indicates that in order to obtain advancement items and a class, they must advance prior to the voting period. If they are successful, they will be awarded a 50% sale coupon for the daily item. Everyone knows that getting a class is great, but the problem is that no one knows how to obtain the advancement item, since it can only be obtained after meeting special conditions. Those who see the subquest for the first time are usually confused and don't know where to find the advancement item or what the options are for the classes. Warriors must increase their power to 10 or more, and defeat enemies in the same hour to get their item for advancement. Berserkers must hunt while bleeding for a certain amount of time. It is preferable for assassins to advance swiftly because they must successfully backstab monsters several times in order to advance. Else, they will remain stuck as beginners indefinitely. One of the benefits of being the first player to advance is that you get to study the neutral skill tracking as the first advancement role reward. A notification window informs you that Ryan is the first player to advance, and that he received a random gold sack as the first advancement reward. A notification pop-up states that while neutral skill tracking aids in locating the intended target, the target must match in both name and face in order to be considered a legitimate target. This is available for 20,000 gold. Ryan was grinning as he looked at his computer, thinking of testing the tracking capability since he had won the gold. He decided to follow Young since a notification pop-up showed that Nick's name and face matched, and he could track. The location of the target had begun. The whereabouts of the young men are confirmed. He is 190 meters away from Ryan. He may take the target by following the arrow in front of him, according to the notification box and a bright line that emerged on the ground. Given his proximity of only 100 meters, Rumen surmised that this could only indicate that Y men have also made their way into the jungle. Wondering whether she should go visit young guys, as they were 2 kilometers distant in the previous effort, he asked himself. Ahin and Sango appeared worn out as they gasped for air in a different area of the jungle. Ahin suddenly fell face down onto the ground, moaning in pain. She informed Sang Cho that she was hurting her leg and that she could no longer run. Sang Cho urged her to continue moving because if they don't, they will be discovered. Even much pained, Sang Cho forced her to stand and said she was sorry and that it felt like he was burning where the arrow had struck her. Sang Cho grimaced at his hypothesis that if they were injured in the other world, their bodies would be same in the actual world. Nevertheless, he gave her hope by telling her that if she survived, she would be able to go back home. Ayn was resolved to bear the suffering when they heard someone question them where they planned to go after suffering that kind of injury. Their startled voice caused them to automatically turn to face the source of the shock. The speaker was a young man, and 3 men with sinister smiles stood behind him. He teased her by claiming that her injuries wasn't hurting enough at the moment. In this confrontation, Sancho felt cornered, and he gritted his teeth and cursed angrily. He is angry that they were discovered due of Ayn, whom he mentally referred to as a damned. He grabbed his weapon and took a combat posture, wondering if there was anything he could do but fight. The young man appeared surprised and impressed by this gesture. He called Sanel an old man and asked if he wanted to fight. He also smiled. The four males had smug expressions on their faces when the young man instructed him to look at them and count how many of them there were. Sanel became enraged and pleaded with them to stop treating them badly even though they hadn't done anything to him. Young Min's derisive look demonstrated his rejection of any misconduct. Sano wondered why they had assaulted them out of the blue. He was told by young males that they wanted something from them. Ein and Sancho were perplexed. The young man confessed that his desire was for the girl seated beside him. He told Sanko, his face sinister, that they were only thinking about a hen and didn't give a damn about a man like him. The three guys who were accompanied by young men conversed with one another, questioning whether the girl was really a hen. One of them stated that the moniker and her appearance strongly indicated that she was a hen, while another speculated that perhaps someone else was attempting to emulate her in order to look like her. The men carried on discussing who gives a damn about appearances when they are identical. Ein's look was one of horror. Sango was assured by young guys that if he leaves Ein behind, he will be released unharmed. This only made Santo more enraged because, in his opinion, the young man ought to have brought it up right away, and he would have immediately left her. With a sidelong gaze, he told her he didn't intend to endanger his life for her. But he has a serious problem. He will fail his boss, Director M.J. Locke, if he can't keep Ein safe. So he took a combat stance, saying he wouldn't be leading without her. Youngman acknowledged whether he truly meant to fight, seeming amused by his gesture. Sancho intimidated them, claiming that what they were doing was illegal. Young men started laughing at this. He thought it was hilarious and sarcastically inquired about the laws that applied in the other world. He even asked whether he would report him when he returned to the real world. He stated that since they were in a different universe and his face might not be the same as it is in the actual one, and he dared him to trust and give it a try. Enraged by their cruel songs, Chop felt he had no choice but to fight back, even if it meant risking more injuries. He recognized that the young guys would not back down with mere threats. Suddenly, he turned his focus to something else. It astonished him to see a familiar face. It was Blacka, and he was idly observing them from a tree. Yongmin seems taken aback by Blacka's unexpected arrival. Black Scythe turned to confront Cho and inquired as to their purpose. In response, Yong that he should simply carry on with his own company. However, Black Scythe interrupted him mid-sentence to inform him that he was not speaking with him. Black Scythe inquired about the present state of affairs from Sung Cole once more. Sang Cole didn't hesitate to report the incident, telling him that the guys were ambushing a hen with the intention of killing him. He also requested assistance and said that he would always owe him money. Black Scythe turned to face the young men and inquired as to the veracity of Sanel's statement. However, young men ignored him, telling him to just move on as it doesn't matter if it's true or not. The young men emphasized that this is not Black's concern. Black Scythe approached the young man and introduced himself, radiating a red, sinister aura about him. Men and young people inquired what Black Scythe was attempting to accomplish while displaying a sense of terror. Black Scythe warned them that he wouldn't simply leave a wounded person alone while holding his weapon as it gradually acquired shape. This infuriated the young boys, but Sanel and Ahin felt relieved and thankful. In the back of his mind, Black Scythe realized that he benefits from the situation as well. If he helped her, Magan Look would think good of him. Furthermore, if a company like Mayan Look owes him money, the payment will have a domino effect and lead to a much more advantageous repayment. Besides, he hates young men, which is why he has decided to help. Black's maneuvers appeared to terrify both his warriors and the young lads. He told him to stop and threatened to kill him if he continued. With a smile, Black asked them what the problem was, and if they wanted to fight him. Iman's mind was a raging pot of fury. It seemed stupid of Black to ask that, considering that Black Scythe had just triumphed over the goblins and achieved the highest rank the previous time. He wondered if the monster would be willing to confront him. His eyes widened in disbelief. Black Scythe dropped his scythe and gave the young men an order to tell him if they did not want to fight. The four guys watched as the scythe's blade moved. Fear-stricken young men asked if Black Scythe would let him go if he told the truth. Folding his arms, Black Scythe stated he would give it some thought if he knelt and honestly begged for his life. The young man's expression changed from one of helplessness to despair as he realized that Black Scythe intended him to bring himself low. When his friends and Aaron are around, he wants to avoid arguing, yet he gets quite agitated. He mocked Black Scythe. Something suddenly dawned on him. If he was lucky, he might even be able to send Black the Flying with a single strike, as he felt strong enough to break through a wall with just his hands. He grinned at the idea. With a smug look on his face, he told Black Scythe, "You're crossing the line, you bastard," while clenching his fists like he was getting ready for a fight. He rubbed Black Scythe's shoulder and went to ask what it was he had said before that had caused him to fall to his knees and beg. "Do you want to die, huh?" he then inquired. Young men meant to naturally close the distance between them. Then he'll strike him squarely in the face. He reasoned that the Black Scythe could not survive since a human could not withstand anything powerful enough to break through a brick wall. Dark abruptly produced his firearm. Youngman couldn't figure out why he would discard his gun. Black Scythe boldly declared that it would be boring to win so easily, and that it seemed a bit unfair for his opponent to attack him defenseless when he is waving a weapon. This infuriated young men who claimed that Black was being ridiculous. Black sprang to his assault on the boys who were coming toward him. The young man lifted his fist, happy that Black Scythe had the audacity to show his head and hide his weapon. He punched him with all his might and said, "Die!" He was shocked, though, when the Black Scythe swerved past his fist, and a powerful kick landed in his stomach. It propelled him into the distance because of its might. With 1 foot rose, Black Scythe spotted the young man's body in the air. Youngman cursed at the Black Scythe as he moaned and crouched in pain. Black Scythe forbade him from cursing since doing so would turn his ears black. Then he kicked him once more. Young Guys whimpered when he was kicked, and he caressed his face. Grabbing his shirt, Black Scythe held his arm out in front of him, unleashing a barrage of punches with his other hand. The young lads felt like a hammer hit them instead of a fist when they were struck. He wondered if Black Scythe had the same level of strength as him. He assumed Black Scythe did not have a rune of strength like his own. That's why he finds it incomprehensible that he is so strong. He studied Black's calm yet serious face. One of his companions yelled his name, the other instructed him to shoot the Black Scythe, and the archer took his place and drew the bow. I let loose a powerful, quick-moving arrow right away. I yelled to Black Scythe to duck under the arrow that was flying toward him, and Black Scythe did just that. Despite his seeming fear, the archer was able to shoot another arrow. Black Scythe rushed as quickly as he could, zigzagging to dodge arrows as he approached the archer. Even though the archer was already at arm's length, he told him that he must have been lucky to discover a bow while hunting. Dark Sword, after a skirmish, drew his weapon and apologized for meeting him. And with that, Black Scythe struck the archer, splattering blood all over the place. There was horror on the archer's face, and he groaned in pain and yelled loudly at my arm. The two men who were still alive, in spite of their dread, assumed a fighting stance and warned Black Scythe not to think that he could simply fool them and leave. The man cursed at him as he ran at him and attempted to stab him with the knife. In return, Blackside grinned mockingly. Then he activated the death insignia, making a crimson eye appear above the man's head with a skull in the middle. Scythe Black grasped his sword. He had great power when wielding his scythe, and let loose wind blades with a red hue that hit the man in the shins, sending him into a pained cry. He hit the ground hard, splattering blood everywhere. The other man was obviously terrified when he saw this. The black scythe approached him with lightning speed, and he told the man that they showed some degree of resolve because they attacked him with a weapon. When he swung his scythe with great power once more, the man cried out loud as the scythe severed his arm. Black Scythe turned to confront the man and noticed that he was donning the insignia of death, which has the ability to instantly cut through armor and amplify damage twice as much. Black Scythe thought to himself as he saw the troops lie on the ground, clutching their horrific wounds in agony. It had been easy, but it can't end that way. In order to prevent them from following him around ever again, he needs to instill dread in them. They groaned at the pain, and when they saw him approaching, they begged him to stop and spare them. He swung his sword again, trying to clean the blood off it, and the man screamed. Black Scythe let out a sigh and decided he was done with the boys, moving on to the next. His laser-like gaze shifted to something else. Standing behind the tree, Black Scythe told Iman it would make no difference if he hit himself. Black Scythe swung his sword high, reminding him there are no exceptions. And a wind blade sliced open the young man's arm. He let out a deep moan as blood gushed from his arm. He was scolded by Black Scythe for being such a baby. When Ryan thought back to his own bullying days, he concluded that Youngman's wounds were nothing compared to the pain he had endured at the hands of Iman and the other bullies. He kept slapping Iman with his thigh, causing him to scream aloud. Ein and Sang-Kol carefully examined the circumstances. That a black scythe could so cruelly tear away an opponent's 2 arms when they had already lost all will to fight was beyond comprehension to Sang-Kol. After the arm's black scythe struck the leg and continued to cut, Sanjo watched and thought, despite the fact that it would seem harsh to some, he liked that kind of serenity. His eyes were fixed on the sight as he spoke about how Black Scythe Rivals was his president. Once he had stopped attacking Black Scythe, he asked Sung Cho and Aeon how they were doing. The reply from Sang-Kol was, "They were, and it was because of him." Since they can see that the 4 boys won't be able to move, Black advised them to go vote, so they won't have to worry about Iman and his friends attacking them. Together, they bowed their respect to Blacka. I needed to know if the men would survive. Blacka retorted that it didn't matter if they died, claiming that those people weren't even close to being animals. He was surprised by Aaron's response. Aaron's expression was morose, and Black thought she was way too sensitive. As if she were some kind of saint, he wondered why she would even care about the lives of those bastards. He thought she was trying to maintain her celebrity status. Sandal caught his eye, and he asked if she might ask him a question. "What is it?" asked Darkside. Sango angrily questioned why he chose to spare those people, saying that there shouldn't be any problems in the hereafter even if he kills them. Youngman's face took on a horrified expression at that. Black Scythe confirmed whether Sango's inquiry pertained to the fact that he didn't kill them in his thoughts after observing that Sung Cho was truly acting like Mighten Rock's right-hand man. He claimed that the reasoning is simple. Killing them serves no purpose for him. Sang-Kol was unable to really comprehend the part about having no advantage, so he highlighted that it is still not a good idea to leave behind anything that could bring problems in the future. Black has said, "Trouble." Glancing sideways at the trembling guys, he questioned if the men could still really cause trouble in the future. He continued by saying that since fewer individuals will participate, a dwindling population has no advantages. It seemed as though Sanal accepted that reasoning and that he was right. As the number of players declines, so too will the number of spots open for those who have finished the round. He couldn't help but appreciate Blacky's viewpoints on those kinds of subjects, since he saw that he had a distinct perspective on the game. Sandal declared that he understood Blacky entirely, and that they would no longer concentrate on the trash that people produced in the future. Then Black said goodbye, but Sandal interrupted him immediately. Black Scythe responded, "Just forget about it," and continued to move away when Sandal assured him that, in exchange for providing his account number, he would get payment in the real world. Sandal could not believe Black Scythe would help out without expecting something in return. When he got back to reality, he decided to tell the president about the incident right away. As he watches him go, he hears someone wailing in anguish in the background. It's Iman Sanio, who looked at him with murderous eyes, but chose not to kill him. Black claimed that singing wouldn't help them at all, so he held back in a sort of retaliatory manner. Then he motioned for a hen to get out of there. Once they were back in the big field, competitors swore to beat each other in order to win the title of representative for their region. As a result, there was a brawl between the players, with one of them grabbing another's collar. While the crowd tried to calm them, a new person joined the debate and volunteered to be the representative, saying that those who get upset easily shouldn't be in that position. Another male participant in the discourse butted in with the argument that he should be the representative because his father is a member of Congress. But a lot of people didn't think he was credible or the material he offered. Their enraged conversation was cut short when someone in the throng caught their attention. The speaker, who goes by the handle Mint Chocolate Boy, warned everyone not to squander their time in this manner and reminded them that there are only 2 hours left in the voting process. Additionally, he exhorted people to vote as quickly as possible. One participant asked for ideas about how they might select their candidates for voting. They were all curious to know what his strong solution was, so they all paid attention when he replied that he had a feasible one. He smiled at the thought of how attentively those people had listened to him. His expression darkened as he considered the players, who had once again fallen for his words, and the others who were being persuaded to do the same. Rune. He found the persuasion to be disappointing. Rune saw it as his haphazard rune piece and grimaced as the notification box revealed that the persuade rune's chances of persuading a target increase if they are able to carry on a conversation. Targets below the caster's level are unaffected. At the time, the persuasive rule didn't seem very effective because it wouldn't be applicable to nonverbal monsters. But he quickly discovered the proper way to use the rune. Other players were busy killing the goblins on their own while he was on the field, supporting one another by trading tactics. He told the guys that a woman was seriously hurt and that they should leave the goblins behind and halt what they were doing right away to help her. The men took his advice to heart and raced to help the woman. Mint Chocolate Boy exploited goblins, who were about to die, by using this strategy once more, which made it easy to reach the need of 100 kills. After that, he figured, if all went as planned, he would be elected as the representative for the region with ease. He suggested that everyone rank the candidates in the current scenario from least to most preferred, selecting around 5 candidates in total, and then dividing the votes among them. The players came to the conclusion that it makes sense, and that it's not a bad idea because they will never accomplish anything if they keep asking each other to vote for themselves. The audience was asked to raise their hands if they had any recommendations, and the mint chocolate lad encouraged them to do so in order to begin narrowing down the options. A player who had been self-promoting earlier raised his hand immediately. However, Mint Chocolate Boy told them that they were not allowed to support themselves since, had they would have simply reiterated what they had said previously. While everyone was claiming Chocolate Boy was right, he thought it would be so easy to win over those pathetic people. Choosing whom to recommend was proving to be difficult for the majority of the crowd, who were immersed in their own thoughts. Some were withholding their opinions because they wanted only themselves to speak for them. Mint Chocolate Boy waited for them in his head, expecting there to be silence from the crowd and recommendations that would center around the people who really stood out. A player raised his hand to propose that the Mint Chocolate Boy serve as a stand-in, saying, "Bingo!" to himself, explaining that it is preferable for the representative to be someone with leadership abilities and rationale. He appeared surprised that he had been nominated. Another player gave him more confidence that he could manage the issue. He laughed silently as he heard them say nice things about him, thinking how another idiot had been added to the list of idiots. Black's Eye was suggested by a different player, who also happened to be the nice person who thanked all the people who thought good of him. He smiled more, thinking that since Black's Eye had won the last round, it would seem reasonable that he would be handed the nomination. Then another player proposed Life is a Documentary as the second placer. Then Black Dragon, the third placer in my right hand, was suggested by a third player. For people have applied, according to Mint Chocolate Boy, since there is still one spot remaining. Then he inquired as to whether they had any more candidates. After concluding that there were only 4 candidates, he instructed the nominees to give a statement before the vote. He offered to speak first, since he believed it would be simple to convince those losers. When told to clip his beard, he started talking. Astonished, he saw that the person who had just spoken was the second-ranked name in the area is the Documentary Life. He said with an annoyed expression on his face, "I can't stop listening to that Mint Chocolate Boy. Life is an archival film." His name was named in a Life documentary, and the Mint Chocolate Boy asked him what he was doing. There was an air of intimidation when he asked Mint Chocolate Boy whether he thought that everything was easy. He also questioned him about whether or not people simply did what he said. Chocolate Mint Boy wondered if being in a documentary had made him a better actor, but he was also thinking that this might not be the case, and he had a puzzled expression on his face. He described the Mint Chocolate Boy, who he thought was the local representative, as a provocateur who was disrupting life for the sake of a documentary. The Mint Chocolate Boy sternly cautioned him that he had crossed the line, because a person's words reflect their face and personality. He questioned whether the documentary Life needed to use such strong language. After he finished speaking, he thought his comments had been impactful, so he was surprised when the documentary Life continued to curse him. The documentary Life got quite angry and started to wonder if the little kid with the mint chocolate could really have lectured him. He even made threats against the youngster, telling him not to have a death desire. The mint chocolate child is shocked to learn that his power is useless. In a documentary titled Life, the protagonist threatened to kill viewers if they did not vote for him, telling them to ignore the other contenders. The mint chocolate toddler showed off his talent once more when he said that life is chaotic and documentary-like. When he questioned the mint chocolate boy whether he believed anyone would listen to him if he talked like that, the boy told him to stop exposing himself and simply turn back. The documentary-style Life said nothing, his countenance serious. He suddenly cut someone in the throng. The sight of blood in front of him frightened the boy with the mint chocolate. A documentary showed Mint Chocolate Boy's tragic face as blood gushed from his body following a neck stab, reminding him that he had previously vowed to kill him if he mistreated him. The mint chocolate lad moaned in agony as his eyes went white. According to a documentary, when his body touched the ground, he threatened to kill the audience in the same manner that he had killed Mint Chocolate Boy. Fearing that the mint chocolate youngster had just been murdered by the documentary Life, the crowd flew into a panic. They did not hesitate to call him a murderer. The Life is a Blade documentary never stopped pouring with a little child's mint chocolate blood. He held up his dagger, daring everyone to come forward if they needed help. A player gave him a finger motion, telling him he was crazy. Every life is an audiovisual work. smiled back, saying if they didn't want to confront him, he would go to them. With lightning speed, he tore through the throng, slicing through every individual as though he were burning with the passion of his work. He was overjoyed and said it was the best because no cameras or police reporters were there. He was happy that he could kill as many people as he wanted, and his body was covered in the blood of the people he had killed. He brandished his knife in front of them and threatened to kill the others if they didn't vote for him. There were looks of fear on everyone's faces. He knew with a devilish smile that people would suddenly support him because they were scared of what he would do to them. And if Black Scythe was successful in becoming a representative, his first target for assassination was his ascent to the top. While this was going on, Rumen continued to swing his sidearm through the forest to build strength. A notification box later showed that he had defeated Null, now with 265 kills out of 100. The impact of the Butcher rune increased all stats by 100%. The boost that was administered 3 times was also used. He noticed his status pane after leveling up to 16 and commented that he was now hardly at level 16. He only leveled up 6 times in the last 2 hours, while facing over 200 monsters. This made him realize that his present level is high, which is slowing down his rate of level growth. However, hunting isn't all bad because it's become easier. That was to be anticipated though, as his weapon attack and stats were tripled due to his possession of both the Reaper and Butcher runes. That it was time to head back, he declared. He tucked his gun away and turned around as soon as the countdown reached 0 and the notification window indicated that it was voting time. Ryan's chest was encircled by golden light, signaling that the local players were being called up to the starting line. Thanks for watching and have a great day.